Hey guys, just before we start the show, I wanted to make a quick kind of mention of the passing of Darren Shalavi. He was 42 and he played Kano in MK Legacy. And unfortunately, he passed away this past week. And we just wanted to send our condolences to his family and express our, you know, obviously sadness over the thing. I mean, obviously it's a tragic scenario anytime someone dies young, and 42 is pretty damn young. So I don't know the details about it. I don't know if those have been released, but unfortunately, it's just it sucks anytime that happens. So before we get into the episode, we all just kind of wanted to say rest in peace.
Yeah, he'll be missed. I mean, love or hate Legacy, he contributed something to a franchise that I love. And I thought he did good as Kano. I thought he was a decent Kano. So I was hoping to see how he would develop that role, and I don't think we've had a bad Kano yet as an actor, and I'm sad to see both of them gone.
Indeed.
Definitely had a lot of promises. Kano was easily one of the things I enjoyed the most about the first season, and I am truly sad to see him go, both for the members of his family and friends, and of course for the MK community who will sadly never get to see this performance reprised. Thank you very much for this brief time in the spotlight with us, Darren. We appreciate it. Rest in peace.
Yeah. I thought he did a great job as Kano. He was one of his appearances were some of the better episodes of the series. I even liked the small role he played on the first episode of Arrow. So he'll be missed. Thoughts and prayers.
That was a good cartoon. Good stuff, Temp.
Indeed, I love that theme. Oh, it's so badass.
Welcome back to the Netherkast, as we were introduced just greatly by Shadowloo and Temp. Yes, this is episode 14. How was your guys' week?
I like what you did there. I think you should just start in the middle of conversation more often. Just catch us by surprise.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going to have a whole B-roll episode of just complete recordings that nobody knew was being recorded.
That nobody knew.
Nobody knew. Not even me.
So the next time someone asks, is it safe? You know the answer.
Never.
But anyways, I'm Black Cyborg as always, and joined by my co-host, temporary username Shadowloo and Razor's Edge. How was your guys' weekend?
I saw Oculus on Netflix.
Was it good?
Really good. I liked it a lot. The ending, not so much, but I think Mike Flanagan's the director. If you saw his other movie, Absentia.
I have not.
It has a lot of the same problems and a lot of the same strengths. I thought it was really good, though. I mean, it's a brutal movie. Somebody eats a light bulb accidentally.
Yeah, I saw that in the trailer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff
happens.
like that. A lot of just emotionally brutal shit. But I mean, if you're a horror fan, I would watch it just for analytical purposes. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah,
Very
I've heard
good stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely heard good things about it in the past because I'm a big horror movie fan. So yeah, it's been on my to watch list, but I just didn't get around to it last Halloween when I
And
usually
watch
watch them.
Absentia as well. Absentia is also Absentia is really good in my opinion too.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out. Have you guys seen Trick or Treat?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, that's a great one. Definitely a good one. It's from like around 2008 or 2009. It didn't really make it big. I don't even know if it went into theaters, but they're finally making a sequel to it. But it's pretty much like it's a cult classic type one. I mean, it's not that old, so it's not really a classic, but it's one of those cult favorites that it definitely fits the Halloween time. It's all about the Halloween holiday, and I don't know. There's there's not much I can say that wouldn't like spoil it, but it's definitely a really, really different type of Halloween horror thriller. Just it captures the theme and atmosphere of Halloween perfect. So I definitely recommend anybody that's into horror movies to check that one out. It's not like overly scary. It's just really well made and well done, in my opinion.
I'm always looking for a good horror film because they're really hard to find these days. It's hard to find a solid horror film.
Definitely, yeah. Check that one out. I think you'll like it. It's just really, I don't know, really good. But how was everybody else's weekend?
Not too shabby. Went to my local home hardware and supply store. Spoke with a consultant. Had a guy come over this morning to do some measurements. And hopefully by next weekend, I'll have a nice, big old, shaggy carpet laid down in my basement. And that'll be the beginning of the setup of my man cave, where I shall game and isolate myself for days on end once MKX is out.
Get your shag on?
Oh yes, absolutely. Shaggy all over that carpet.
Pictures?
Getting shaggy with it. If you ask nicely, yes. If you ask nicely.
I has nudes? Alright, cool. Razor?
I don't know. I didn't do much this week. I just
Alright, fantastic.
I started watching Game of Thrones, mostly because of internet arguments where someone would complain about the writing and another person would be all, "What do you expect it to be like, Game of Thrones?" It's like it's no Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So I was all like, what's so great about this fucking show? I gotta find out. And the answer is Peter Dinklage.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what's so great about that show. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I heard he did a fantastic job with Destiny.
I heard otherwise.
Yeah, me too.
No, he's fine. He's not the problem. It's everything else. It's that story doesn't
Days of Future
exist.
Past.
Yeah, he was.
He was wonderful
yeah.
in Future Past.
Amazing.
Made that movie.
If
But to say Destiny has a story is kind of a stretch anyway. Destiny doesn't really have a functioning story at all. But yeah.
I was going to make a little person joke, but...
Don't do that, please.
Okay.
He's above all that. Come on.
He deserves your respect.
No, he's great. It wasn't like an offensive joke. It was just going to be a funny pun. It was going to be punny. I'm not against little people. Jeez.
I also a couple weeks ago saw a movie that he and Summer Glau are in called Knights of Badassdom. It's a horror movie about these LARPers accidentally summon a demon. It's actually kind of a horror comedy, I guess.
Hold on.
It was on Netflix, and I like Summer Glau, so...
No, I just don't want to gloss over the fact that Dev was just... Please don't. Please don't.
For all that's holy.
But yes. All right. We got some show recommendations. We got some movie recommendations. We've got some carpeting recommendations.
Indeed.
This is good. This is
Go to Home Depot, folks.
pictures.
If you live in Canada.
This is
Home
fantastic. Yes. All right. Well, cool. Hopefully, all the listeners had good weekends. And I just want to take a quick moment because I haven't been mentioning this at the front of the podcast lately, and if I could just be serious for a moment, I actually have some. No, I'm just kidding. That was weird, awkward. I don't even know why I went down that road. But I was gonna thank everyone for subscribing on the YouTube page. I think we're up to 165, which is pretty freaking cool. And I want to thank Test Your Might as always. Did they put it up on the front page, or did you take forever to do the show notes?
Yeah, it was forever this week. I think I got them up Sunday.
Well, regardless, people are tuning in, and I want to thank everybody because we are averaging around like 600, 500 views per episode, and that's about 200 more than we used to get, so that's pretty damn awesome.
Thank you for loving us.
Yes.
We love you right back.
And to the consistent 13 downvotes, thank you for consistently not loving us. If there's anything
we appreciate
that
those 13 views.
Yes.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Right, if
Remember
there's
that when you click that
anything,
button?
you're being consistent, so I appreciate that. And
Yeah,
you
at
keep
least
giving us more than
they
one
have
chance.
watched 13 people always tune in.
Yeah,
We have that guarantee.
I wish I knew what they didn't like about it, but hey, I mean, they're at least tuning in, so there's got to be something that we're doing right. Just not right enough to get the upvote or no vote. But yes, thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for all the questions that got sent
I have
in.
a theory that they're Kano fans and they're tired of our constant berating.
I have a feeling they're Katana fans, just because.
Because
Katana's the only character who has fans. We're gonna tell that joke again.
And then the downvotes began.
Yeah, that's where 5 of the downvotes just came from right there.
Oh God, please!
I've done my job this week.
But yes, anyways, this episode's gonna be a little bit different because, well, it's not really gonna be different. It's just gonna be more like our old episodes, or more along the lines of our episode where we just kind of talked about random things. But we'll be answering questions instead of just talking about random stuff. So we'll just kind of let viewer questions, or listener questions, I should say, because no one's viewing this unless you want to stare at a Mortal Kombat logo for 2 hours. Then hey, kudos to you. But listener questions will be leading our conversation for this episode because we're a little bit behind, so we want to get caught up on that since we don't have a comic book chapter to cover this week. So yes, Temp, why don't you just start us off and we'll just kind of dive into this.
All right, let's see what we got for our first question. We have a question from Charybdis?
I think it's Charybdis.
Charybdis?
After the Greek monster of myth.
Okay, not familiar with that one. What do you think MK and the MK story in particular would look like if Tobias never left?
Well, I think we'd have a hell of a lot less deaths for shock factor, that's for sure. I don't want to just weigh Tobias straight against Vogel or anything, but someone made a really good point on the boards. I'm very inclined to agree with it, that most of the time when someone died in the story under Tobias, they emerged changed or it was for a decent purpose. It was character alteration. It wasn't just done for the sake of, oh God, no, they're dead. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
One exception to that, Melina, but
yeah, changed loyalties, but yeah.
He was very, despite the fact that the game's all about fatalities, it very rarely happened in the story when he was in charge.
I'd like to say there'd be more consistency and well thought story arcs, etc. But he wasn't around. He was only up till MK4, correct?
Well, yeah. The thing of it is, MK4 was his last fighting game.
Right.
It's also sort of the weakest one of the ones he made in terms of story, but you could also blame that on the fact that he was sort of dividing his attention between MK4 and Mythologies and Special Forces, so He didn't necessarily have enough time to flesh everything out, and MK4 was more like Ed's baby, while Mythologies and Special Forces were what he was spending most of his time on, because he was the head of those projects, so he had, a lot more work to do. One thing, we probably would not have seen a reboot. There's an interview with the On Blast show from a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Where they ask him what he thinks of it, and he says he thought they did a good job, reintroducing the series for a new generation and fleshing out characters that he never had a chance to, like Ermac and Noob Saibot. But he doesn't like reboots just because it, takes the story backwards as opposed to moving forward.
Right.
And so there's that. Another thing is we never would have seen Onaga, because when Tobias was in charge of the story, Edenia was not a separate realm that was merged with Outworld. It was the old name for Outworld before Khan took over. Gerard was the king before Khan. So, Khan didn't usurp the throne from Onaga, he usurped it from Gerard. So that probably would have continued to be the case. Like, even in the MK4 comic, you see Sindel sitting on Khan's throne, ruling over Khan's subjects. Kitana's trying to make peace between the Centaurs and the Shokans, who really have nothing to do with Edenia. Stuff like that. I think, we never would have had necessarily the happy rainbows and gardens Edenia that we have in Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon. We would have seen them, sort of an Outworld that was trying to rebuild and, become a less horror-looking place. That might have been interesting to see. At the same time, I'm a fan of Onaga as a character. I kind of like the way things went. So I mean, I guess in a world where Tobias never left, I wouldn't know what I was missing. But I could go 50-50 either way.
Well, I have a
Which I
question.
prefer.
How did the story go in all the Tao Fang games?
All one of them?
Exactly. Moving on. I'm just kidding. No, how was that game, by the way? Like story-wise, I mean.
I've never looked into Tao Feng's story. I know that the characters' names are not particularly creative. It was usually like a guy would be named Iron Eagle or something like that, and that was basically most of the cast was like an object and an animal for their name.
Because yeah, I'm curious to see how the story went in that game, because I know that was Tobias's next. And I mean, did he really do anything after that?
I don't know where he disappeared to after Studio Gigante went out of business, because he didn't pop up again for years. He did the art on the MK versus DC comic, and then recently he got a job working for Zynga, but I don't know where he was in between.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know either. He just kind of like dropped off the face of the earth.
I know what he did before he worked for Midway. He was the artist on the real Ghostbusters comic books.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Those are pretty decent, actually.
For you.
Well, all right. Yeah, I mean, like overall, it's hard to tell how it would have gone. One would think it'd probably go smoother story-wise, because the first few games were definitely a lot more consistent, I should say, in terms of story and setting things up, it felt like. But I mean, who knows how much of that would have continued, or if Tobias would have run into the same issues that they ran into later of just running out of ideas in general.
Yeah, again, there's the question of how much of the problems with MK4 were just because it was rushed. I mean, the only reason we have Jarek is Kano was going to be in that game, and then at the last minute they decided, no, we need more new faces.
Yeah.
The only reason Reiko is in that game is he was going to be Noob Saibot, and they decided, no, we need new faces. The same with Tanya and Katana. If you look at the Mythologies characters, Fujin was introduced in that game, Quan Chi, Shinnok, Serena, these are all characters we pretty much like. So, I mean, there's a question of, if he had the proper amount of time, would the new characters we'd have gotten after MK4 been good, or would they have been as disliked as Dramen and Su Hao?
Why?
Here's one. I remember in an interview from MK Online a little while back, he said that he actually did have plans for Tremor.
Huh.
Confirm? I believe that he had confirmed that he was supposed to be like some sort of Lin Kuei Black Dragon double agent or something along those lines, but he never actually got off the ground with that, as we all know. So, for better or for worse, we probably would have had Tremor as a more important character. I'm not going to judge the intrinsic value of that.
Well, speaking of more important character, why hasn't Serena been in one of the main fighting games?
Ed Boon hates us all.
I mean,
no, really,
not counting Armageddon, but...
It is the question that haunts me at night.
I still wonder what the hell. I don't think that there's any kind of portion of the fan base that's actively against her coming back. Same problem with Fujin, really. These characters are appreciated, but they get no love.
I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact that, because I think Fujin's a little bit of a different situation. In order to like Serena, you kind of have to have some familiarity with the mythologies, and a lot of people don't.
Most of the casuals don't know who Serena is. That's true.
But that's
who? That girl from Sailor Moon?
If you put her in the game and give her a bio and a story and give her some story presence, that'll change that, though.
I feel like she's as good as a new character to the masses who has the advantage of already having an in with the fan base. I see they should just go for it. Just, mind those broken knives.
All right, well...
Yeah, that is one obstacle when you bring in a character who sort of had moves in the 3D era, or in their first appearance that weren't good. You have to imagine, well, how do we reimagine this? Which is I think, harder somehow than making a new character completely from scratch.
She can still have knives, just not everywhere.
I
at
wouldn't give her
once.
knives.
At
I
once.
think there's...
In your face, and groin, and chest, over and over, every 0.5 seconds. God, those fucking knives. I'm sorry, continue.
Kano has knives. You don't need another knives character.
And
What'd she
Scarlet
even use in
literally
the
has her
Legends?
knives. She has the Serena knives now, so.
Hmm.
But I mean, I agree. We could have another knife character. That's not what.
I just think there's
worries me about
something more
Serena.
creative you can do with her. I mean, we talked about it in a previous episode what I would do with her moves, where she would, transform partially or completely into a demon and back, or like her 5-star kick from Armageddon could be more to Graham themed or something like that.
I'm
just
thinking
think,
like Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy. That's what's coming to mind. I don't know if I like that either. It never made sense for me. Why does Vincent turn into a anyway?
Well, it doesn't make sense for him, but it does make sense for her. It's already in her lore.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just...
All right, next question.
All right, this one comes from Nightbreed. I believe he asked this before Katana was announced, but the question is still relevant. Who do we think will be announced next? Katana aside, obviously. I'm going to say it's almost time for a post-MK3 character. I'm going to say Havoc. I've thought Havoc was on the horizon for a really long time.
I'm getting more and more of the mindset, and it's disappointing to me that it feels like this, but it's looking more and more like very, very few post-MK3 characters are even going to be in this game. I think Havoc's chances have dropped significantly, just based on how many names from MK9 are either confirmed or rumored to be coming back. And I mean, we're going to be talking about this soon anyway, so I'll just bring it up now. You put Shang Tsung's name in the mix, and I'm starting to think, wow, that slot could have gone to somebody who didn't have their entire story already told.
I thought he was gone. I did not expect to see Shang Tsung in
yeah.
MKX. I mean, people said we never saw him die, but he was dead in every sense that mattered. There was nothing in the story to communicate that he was alive in any.
We saw Shao Kahn suck every part of him into thin air.
All too easy.
Yes, I know.
Every part of him.
You
Okay,
can
but
argue is
all right.
We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I'm assuming that everyone here has heard about the rumored GameStop commercial.
All right, well, let's just talk
that.
about it. The GameStop allegedly airs a commercial on their little TVs in their stores that says that confirmed both Melina and Shang Tsung will be in the game.
Mm-hmm. That was a long short of it.
I was already expecting Melina, just because in the comics she has a new costume, and that's... Not everyone believes that's necessarily anything to go by, but I do.
It's also Melina. Even if there wasn't a new costume, I still think she's coming back.
I don't know that a story of the war for Outworld's throne in Khan's absence could be told without Melina. It certainly would have been very weird if she weren't in the game. But I don't know why you need Shang. I mean, I guess you could say to redeem how shitty a job they did of portraying him in the last game, where Quan Chi stole all of his thunder, and then Khan killed him and gave his powers to Sindel for seemingly no real reason at all.
That's good enough a reason for me.
I guess I wanted more newer characters. I could have lived without Shang coming back. I like Shang, but I could have gone one without seeing him.
I feel like people are reacting like we've seen 3/4 of the roster already, and I know it's just not going to be the case.
I feel like if you make a list of all the names we've got, it's up to about like 24, 25. We're running out of room. And I mean, I'm including a lot of characters who are, I mean, at this point, we should call Shang a rumor, not by any means confirmed. You
I
can.
would say confirmed, because the source is Darkhound, and I trust Darkhound.
Well,
Like,
I'm not saying I don't believe the guy who saw the commercial. I'm just not sure GameStop has correct information.
Even that I find very hard to believe because they put a lot of effort in those advertisements. I mean, I imagine there's an approval process just for those advertisements.
There really is. They have to, go by Netherrealm and someone, or at least WB, and someone has to vet this and go, yeah, this is okay. And someone didn't think maybe, oh, these characters might not have actually been announced by this point. This kind of shit happens all the time. I am personally much, much, much more inclined to believe that this GameStop commercial rumor is legitimate than I am to believe, say, someone from off the forthcoming live action series is going to be in the game, because Takeda is in there as well, and he happens to be in the comic, so we assume he's going to be in the game too. It's a lot of stretching and hopping and skipping and jumping to make, and personally, yeah, Shay and Melina for me are.
I'm just inclined to believe that the web series is specifically designed to be a tie-in and advertisement for the game, so why would they make up new characters that aren't in the game? Especially one who fits the generation gap theme of the game, like fucking Kung Jin.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to tell because we haven't seen anything official on the web series itself other than the casting sheet, which,
Yeah, and I mean, that's another thing. Kerry Tagawa has confirmed he's coming back for quote-unquote Legacy 3, which, I mean, maybe... We don't know if there's going to be a third season of Legacy before the MKX web series, or if that's just what everyone is calling the MKX web series because they're bringing so much of the same cast and crew back.
Right, and...
I'm likely to call them one and the same.
I would think so too, and on top of that, with all these returning characters and actors and whatnot from Legacy, it almost is... I mean, I know on the casting sheet it said lead for those characters, but I'm almost questioning how big of a part these characters are going to actually play, these newer characters being introduced, or if they're just there simply to further plot points for other characters. I mean, some of them could even be killed off in the web series. I mean, we really don't know what the intentions... Because, yes, we could get all of them, and that would be like 5 more new characters on top of the 4 that we already have. But I just don't see that for some reason. Or maybe it's just hoping that we don't see that because those new characters don't sound interesting, not nearly as interesting as, say, Devora or Kotal Khan, etc. Kung Jin just doesn't do it for me, or the Bo Rai Chow guy, the Tan Chow, whatever the hell his name is.
Ron Tan Chow.
Yeah, I can't even remember his name. That's how unimpressive that character seems right now. And
yeah.
Or Salazar. I don't know. I'm still not believing that these characters are guaranteed to be in the game or that they're even going to play a big part in the web series, even though they are listed as leads. Because I also believe there's going to be several other characters they've already casted that are going to play those big parts, and these other characters might just be there for whatever reason. And maybe they'll be in a future game, but maybe just not MKX. I still think we're going to get several more MK9 returnees. Then we're going to get, maybe 4, 5 new characters on top of the ones we already have, and then we'll get 3 or 4 post our MK4 and on characters, which not counting Quan Chi or Kenshi, etc. I really think the characters like Bo Raicho, Fujin, Havoc, and possibly Tanya are pretty much a lock for this game. If not in the initial roster, at least as DLC. But
well, yeah, DLC is an entirely different subject. And
right.
DLC is driven pretty much entirely by the names the fans demand on Twitter and the message boards and that. So, I mean, I don't doubt that we'll see someone like Tanya once the game is, done DLC-wise. I have a strong feeling that these names from the web series will actually make it onto the roster, and that,
that's gonna suck.
Yeah, and Shang Tsung is not going to be the last name we hear from MK9 who we thought there's no reason to bring them back. Like,
I imagine the entire MK2 cast is coming back. I expect to see a Jax reveal. If we get a classic character anytime soon, I imagine Jax is around the corner.
One of those
yeah,
boots is totally
I think
Jax.
there's enough evidence at this point between Ed's little hints on Twitter and the fact that he's in the comic. Jax is probably a shoo-in. I just see my concern is, I guess, mostly the MK3 characters like Shiva and Sindel.
I don't see
I
them
feel like
coming back.
if you were going to make room on the roster so that you could fit your Havocs and your Fujins, those are the guys I'd say goodbye to.
Right.
But I also would have seen Shang's name in that boat. And now Shang's coming back, so it's like, man, is Shinnok even going to be in this game? I mean, I was...
Well, I've worried about him for a while. I've been worried about Shinnok since October. Since Quan Chi, really.
It's that skull on his fucking chest. I don't think Shinnok's going to be a factor in this game at all.
I think the concern was raised even more when we learned in the comic that the Netherrealm War took place in like the first 5 years and was done. And
yeah, but I think we're going to see those first 5 years in the game.
Right. Yeah, we'll see the 25 years leading or following MK9. It's just how like we've talked about before, our concerns of how much is each era is going to get, an actual detail and amount of time dedicated to it in the story mode with the cutscenes and everything, that they're covering so much that the Netherrealm War, how much is that actually going to take up?
It would be very bizarre storytelling to tell the tale of Shinnok, of like a war against him where you never actually fight a match against him.
Right, especially after the MK9 ending where he shows up.
You know how they love to put Quan Chi in the spotlight.
I mean,
this is what's going to happen. I mean, we're going to get like the Netherrealm War starts, they send out the zombies, then Shinnok cackles and goes, it's all going according to plan. Then we have a repeat of Quan Chi's MK4 ending where Shinnok gets all nice and blown up with that amulet. And so he actually does get to take command during the war for a little while until Shang shows up, says it has begun, rips off his leg, and beats him to death with it for 10 straight minutes. Cut.
It could be worse than that. The first scene in story mode might be Quan Chi blowing up Shinnok for all we know. And that's that. And the whole Netherrealm War is just Quan Chi's army.
Well,
for all we know.
With the return of Shang, do you think there's going to be a chance of a return of Deadly Alliance?
Oh my god, no.
You know what? I would like to see them try, because they've already established that Quan Chi doesn't need Shang in this timeline, because they fucked up his powers.
Right.
The entire reason Deadly Alliance happened was because only Shang knew how to move souls into those mummies. Like, Quan Chi doesn't know anything about stealing souls or transferring souls. He doesn't have soul spells. And then 9 he goes and makes the soul NATO. And it's just, fuck logic. Fuck consistency. So what does Quan Chi need Shang for? So I can't see any reasons they'd be partners.
Yeah.
I just feel like they've already gone down that route and they made the Deadly Alliance joke in the last game, and logically speaking, yeah, that's about it. And, well, by the way that they all parted, I imagine Shang has some bitter issues left to resolve, so no partner very likely in the near future. Not in the least.
What about, I know somebody suggested that this might be a potential thing that happens, because the whole idea of Shang returning has gotten some people curious as to what part he'll play in this game, and is it possible, I don't remember who suggested this or brought up the idea, so forgive me if this was your idea, not claiming it as mine, but potentially Shang is upset with the way things went and how he got screwed over, essentially, so to fight against Shinnok and Quan Chi, he returns some of the dead characters' souls to them, etc., or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote.
I could see Shang, lending a hand to the forces of light, so to speak, just to fuck with other people. Goes, this is your problem, not mine, I'm done with this, and walks away. He's not about to become a good guy like some people have been suggesting, because that's just not Shang. I could see it as being kind of like the bittered guide that they don't trust, but they have to follow to X or Y location for whatever reason. I could see Shang pulling that role.
Out of spite, I could see it. I could see it out of an anger towards Khan and Quan Chi, maybe. Not for a long-term basis, though. But yeah, what's up, Razor?
I have a feeling that Shang will maybe come into the story in a later act after Quan Chi's defeat. Like, he'll be some sort of Act 3 surprise return, as opposed to having anything to do during the Netherrealm War.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Just kind of one of those comes back from the dead type of thing. Like,
I think what sort of makes me think that is just the sort of that it would be the strongest way to avoid comparisons to Deadly Alliance. Just if Shang and Quan Chi were never even active at the same time in this plot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see. It's everything I've speculated on. Every time we get a reveal like, oh, Shang Tsung's in the game, that, throws some of my expectations for the game out the window. Because before we had a roster at all, we all kind of assumed that this would be the game where we see a lot of Deadly Alliance and Deception era characters finally get their time to shine, and that the game would be mostly about the Netherrealm War. And now we find out that it's apparently a very small part of it, that most of the story revolves around the era where Cassie and Takeda are adults. And I'm starting to wonder, what kind of story does Netherrealm want to tell? And do they realize whether or not that's the story their audience wants to see? And I don't know, because I get this feeling that everything about MKX is sort of about going, let's avoid Deadly Alliance and Deception references, because those are now the pariahs of the series. And that disappoints me.
That was sort of Deadly Alliance's attitude at MK3. I mean, it doesn't really surprise me, unfortunately.
I don't know. Deadly Alliance had a lot of references to MK3. I feel like it ignored more of 4, because, like, Quan Chi was the only guy who returned from 4, but at least it told us how 3 ended in, like, a lot of detail. Like, all that stuff about Kano and Shiva and Motaro and what happened to everybody after the invasion failed and where they've been for all these years. Yeah, I think MK3 got a lot of respect and reference in Deadly Alliance. It was almost like they barely acknowledged 4 at all, except for Quan Chi.
Yeah, I don't know. Ever since they rebooted the series, this is kind of what I did expect, and I've stated it several times on the forum that once they did MK1 through 3 and kind of when in MK9 how it covered that, I thought the whole idea was to avoid Deadly Alliance and beyond, and we just get MK4 and then completely kind of like in Back to the Future, you just completely veer off the path and go down a completely different future.
The thing about veering off the path is some things are unavoidably going to be similar if you're logical. And I guess that was my mistake for thinking NRS had any sense of logic after I'd seen what they'd done with the script of 9. And maybe I would have expected something more left field, all new, if they hadn't ended 9 with Quan Chi and Shinnok. If they hadn't had all that stuff about, if the dead people had just not shown up after their death scene with Sindel, if we hadn't seen them as zombies in the Netherrealm with Quan Chi going, I have an army to attack with now, then I wouldn't have been like, well, now I know what the plot of the next one is. So it seems like they telegraphed one thing, and now they're doing something mostly completely different, and that seems like
I applaud
a
them for it
complete
personally.
violation of the concepts of foreshadowing in Chekhov's gun.
I imagine it's possible that there is no Netherrealm War at all in the game. The game starts off at the 25-year mark, and everything we see is cinematic flashbacks. There's no fights. There's no battles. There's no, chapter or final boss ending with Shinnok,
See,
I hate
like
to see
that would be a betrayal of expectations. It would be very disappointing, not just to me, but to a lot of other people.
I agree.
Especially because MK4 itself was so it feels unfinished. Like, it feels like there should have been an Ultimate MK4, and I know Gold kind of was that, but there should have been a game that fleshed things out more, since it was so rushed and, vague what even happens in that game plot-wise.
I agree. There's a lot of missed opportunity in MK4 as well.
People wanted that game to be remade. I mean, it deserved a remake a lot more than Trilogy did, because Trilogy was already perfect. Whereas 4, can be improved. Should be improved.
There are things that happen in Deception that should have happened in MK4. Noob Smoke should have happened in MK4.
Smoke should have been in MK4 in general. There was no reason to ever drop that character out of the narrative, because he was the most important cyber ninja. He was drastically important to Sub-Zero's plotline. I don't understand why Smoke wasn't in 4 and Deadly Alliance.
My guess is that MK4 was trying to be like MK1 on steroids. It's like they wanted MK to look like classic MK again. So they brought back almost all of the original cast, and they added some new characters that deviated from the MK3 aesthetic. That's my theory. And I feel like Deadly Alliance in many ways does that too. It wasn't until Deception that MK started really coming together as a complete universe for me. Before that, I feel like they're trying to borrow from MK1.
I felt like 4 was a response to 3. Like, they said, well, we did the urban thing, and we're not sure people really liked the feel of it because it was so radically different from 1 and 2, so now let's be Asian horror as much as possible again. It was an attempt to recreate the feel of MK2 more so than 1, I think. I think Deadly Alliance is very MK1-ish because it's a lot about movie archetypes, and there's a lot more Asian without the horror. I think Deadly Alliance is the feel of MK2 and 4, but also bringing back a lot of characters we hadn't seen in a long time.
I'm just going to go ahead and posit that in as much as they've received critique so often and so hard for so very many of the things that they did or changed or altered while retelling the events of MK1 to 3, you've got to believe that at a certain point they just went, why should we go back and retell for Deadly Alliance and Deception? Why should we, again, try to mess with that specific timeline, that order of things, that since people seem to love the original timeline so well, why don't we just go and do something new instead? Sure, they'll take a little bit of shit for, not respecting the original timeline, but as in my opinion, if you've taken it this far, why the hell not go all the way?
I think that
don't really expect it.
I just think that you're missing out cause and effect. The point of, if you change the past, you have to show the butterfly effect ripples. Like, if there is no Deadly Alliance in this universe, then what happens to Li Mei? What happens to Draman? What happens to Bo Raicho? Where do those characters go? And if you're just going to not show them at all, that's a cheat, I think. Narratively speaking.
Temp likes Li Mei. You like...
I do, a lot.
I remember you like Draman. I mean, I like Hotaru, and everyone loves Havoc, but probably, I'm guessing, in the eyes of NRS and WB, those characters just didn't make a mark. Kira and Cobra get shit on in MKO all the time. No one gives a flying crap about Darius. Dairu's a joke to half the cast. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question that we're going to be seeing a few of these characters, but by and large...
I question whether we'll be seeing more than 2.
I think we'll get at least 3,
I think
maybe
the
4.
2 will be Shinnok and Fujin.
I think we'll see Shinnok get killed off in a cutscene.
He was in 9, so it's almost cheating. See, I wonder if we'll see anybody from Deception at all in the entire game.
I think Havoc has a great chance just because he was in MK9.
Absolutely.
I hope so, but I think he's going to end up DLC, if at all.
I also don't feel like...
I don't know. Real quick, I see with this whole Kamidogu storyline they're working up in the comics, that's going to carry over in the game for sure, I would imagine. Because it takes place after the Netherrealm War. So clearly there's Quan Chi.
Carry over no further than explaining where the dagger Kotal Khan's cutting his hand all the time with came from. I don't know how much the Kamidogus, how much what's in the comic.
I don't know. The way I see it is, after the Netherrealm War, Quan Chi clearly wants all the Kamidogu for himself. because that's kind of where they're going with the comic. So they need something to bridge the gap after the Netherrealm War. We don't know what that is. We just know that there is a fight for the control, the throne for Outworld. But beyond that, there's probably there's got to be a main story going on behind all of this, that the whole story arc takes place over the 25 years. And I think Quan Chi rising to power after the Netherrealm War, him trying to get the Kamadogu, I think that will be a big part. And if that is correct, then I think you have to have someone like Havoc, because, I mean, if you're going to introduce the Order Realm, the Chaos Realm, etc., into the game, then you got to have at least, I mean, maybe we won't get Hotaru for the Order Realm, but Havoc, yeah, no, I want to see Hotaru back too.
I'm not sure we'll see Order and Chaos Realm, because every single character on the roster so far is Earth and Outworld guys.
Yeah, but I mean, how many have officially been confirmed, or at least confirmed enough to, like Shang and Melina, where you can just say, they're going to be in, not counting like the web series people that, could be, could not be. 13 maybe? Is that right? Does that sound about right?
I don't know. I haven't really
got
to count it out without adding the web series and the little rumor bits like,
I think it is
Reptile
about
has
13.
a new costume, so let's say Reptile's confirmed.
Right,
Melina
yeah.
has a new costume, so
any of that, yeah, that would just be pure speculation. But we'll take Shang and Melina and count them as in, just because of the GameStop commercial thing. And then obviously Kung Lao and Katana on top of the 9 that we covered when we first started this podcast, so that would make 13.
We've got.
Are we counting Goro?
Yeah, we've got.
Or I don't know if we covered Goro when we originally did that, so that might be. So
we've got 12 total, including Goro, that are officially confirmed.
Okay, and that's not counting Shang and Melina, or it is counting Shang?
That is not counting Shang or Melina.
Okay, so
12, it would be 14 with them.
Right, that makes sense. Because I wasn't counting Goro before, so 14. So I'd say if we get the roster that we got with MK9, that's half the characters, because MK9 started with 28, not counting Kratos. So there's plenty of room for more characters from, like I said, I still don't see more than like 3 or 4 from MK Deadly Alliance, MK4 Deception, etc., not counting Kenshi and Quan, etc., the ones that we saw in MK9. But
okay, well, wait, let's take the 14 we have.
Right.
Just add Kenshi and Takeda because they're probable.
Okay, yeah.
And then let's say there are...
So that's 16.
5 more new characters, just because Ed said, it would be the most since...
Right, I'd say 4 to 5 is a safe bet for more new characters than we already have.
So that's about 21 there, maybe 7 to go.
7 to go, correct.
So I expect those 7 slots to go to MK9 guys.
Then who do you see out
With
of...
maybe the exception of Bo Raicho. See, I'm not sure we'll get to see Havoc in this one.
Who do you think from MK9 is... Say you have 5 slots to fill from MK9 left that haven't been confirmed. So your Jax and whatnot. So...
well, yeah, let's say Jax and Reptile, Liu Kang, maybe either Sector or Cyrax, although I'm really not sure about those two.
What about Sonya and Johnny?
Yeah, Sonya and Johnny. So there would be your 5.
Okay, because I don't see Sector or Cyrax.
I might give the Sector Cyrax slot to Cabal just because of his tournament legacy.
Yeah, I don't know. Cabal is one of those that I don't see coming back other than maybe DLC.
I'm really...
I wanted to believe at the start of things... I wanted to leave at the start of things at what they said about, the people who are going to be coming back are going to be the ones who were picked the most often, and you'll never see the 5 lowest characters ever again. And I think that like Shang Tsung was near the bottom of the list. I don't know where Katana was on that. But...
Not till in the beginning, yeah, but near the end, Shang Tsung went way up in the tier list.
Yeah,
when Cowboy started using him.
That people take from themortalkombat.com is very, very old and out of date.
So
it also doesn't even have Rain on it.
What are the current 5? What are the current 5 bottom of the tier characters? Does anybody know that offhand?
In terms of tier, or in terms of playability,
Or
in
just
terms of how much
who
they
gets
play?
played most, yeah. Whatever they were referencing when they made that comment.
You guys know the list better than I. In terms of tournament play, I can answer that. I can't answer that for the actual online list.
I don't think there is a known stat, because I mean the MortalKombat.com was supposed to be keeping track of everybody who played online on both Xbox and PS3.
Right.
And like I said, that list is out of date by it only kept track of things for the first few months or the first year, and then it just stopped updating.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is an up-to-date list.
Who is on that list is Kano, on all lists. The tournament list, he never got played. Online, he didn't get played much. And for some reason, he's back in the game. So I think Tournament Legacy does have a lot to do with it. I think Cabal's 50-50. I think there's a strong chance we'll see him. I'm more confident for other characters like Jax, of course. Even, I haven't given up on Cyrax, but I don't know. I think Tournament Legacy is going to be a huge factor. It really is.
I believe that Smoke will be in due to complete and total worldwide popularity.
Oh yeah,
and because of the fact,
I think Smoke's in.
Because of the fact that they haven't announced him yet, and they like to keep it secret. So clearly, his lack of an announcement means he's totally in the game, you guys. Oh God, I need help.
I don't know. I just think there have been enough little hints like that supposed the little image from the very first build of the variation where it's Kotal is giving him the choke or face grab.
Didn't that turn out to actually be Sub-Zero?
Nope, that was Smoke. And
Ed sure
Boon
about that?
Very sure, positive on that. But Ed Boon did reply to a tweet about Smoke. Someone said,
yeah, that was another.
Is Smoke going to be in the game?
It's always the little things, and
See, I don't think Smoke will be in the game.
You just want to break my heart.
No, I mean, I don't think Cyrax is going to be in the game either, and that's if I had one character left that I could choose, that would be Cyrax, but Temp and I actually had this conversation in Skype on Sunday. I have the conversation right here.
I remember
and I
that.
said I said in my opinion, I see 16 characters coming from MK9 coming back, 3 to 4 characters being from the MK4 through Deceptions, etc., not counting the obvious ones that were in MK9 as well, actually. But and 8 new characters. So
was Ermac in that list?
And the characters that I said wouldn't be coming back, I just did it from just my own personal logic, not factual based or anything like that, or statistic based, but just personally the characters I just didn't see needed in this game or popular enough to be in this game, or just for whatever reason I didn't think would be in the game, were Cyborg Sub. I picked 12 that wouldn't return because I had to make room for 16 that would return. So I chose Cyber Sub wouldn't return, Shiva, Sindel, Nightwuff, Cabal, Striker, Sector, Cyrax, Jade, Noob, Smoke, and Sonya. I just don't think they're coming back. I think Sonya's going to die. I think some of the other characters are just going to sit one out, and some of those other characters are already dead as well, and something like Cyborg Sub I just think was a one-off.
Yeah,
I would almost say
it's
Ermac
already obvious at this point. I mean, we think we've seen both Sub-Zeros in the comic as humans, so Cyborg Sub was definitely a one-off, and I don't know if he was always planned to be a one-off, or you can chalk it up to how many people hated him, but
that's probably a deciding factor right there.
Yeah, the thing that I'm starting to wonder how many slots this roster is going to have, because Ed's little hints point to too many characters.
I say 28 to 30, but I mean I've always said 26 to 28 is probably what we will get, but
yeah, see, I'm expecting about 28.
Yeah, and I think that's the safe bet just because of MK9, and if you go off of that, there is room for 16 MK9 characters.
I'm expecting 9 or 10 new. See, that's...
I think it's going to cap off at 8 or 9.
I'm going to throw an insane number out there, and just because, we're not even considering the single guest character that we know is going to be in the game from somewhere, I'm thinking that after DLC is out all told, we're going to see something like 32 to 34.
Right, and that's what MK9 had. I think we're going to get more DLC than MK9, but just if you don't include DLC, and we're just talking base roster, if we do get 28, there is enough for 16 MK9 returnees, which covers just everybody that you would think would make the game, all the obvious picks, the ones we've seen confirmed, and just the logical choices, and 8 new characters and 3 to 4 from Deadly Alliance and on. There's still enough. I feel. I mean, like, we could list off the 16 that I didn't choose in that little 12 characters that I don't think are going to make it, and you'll have a pretty solid roster and it includes Ermac, and like the ones that Razor and I just said beforehand, we included Sonya in that, and I think if you take Sonya out and put Ermac in, you have probably what we will get.
I think. See, I had a thought way back when that the art of Ermac, the scarecrow-looking costume, was released. And when we found out that was from an actual Midway artist, but that design's not in the game, that to me said Ermac's not in the game. And I know other people sort of saw it the opposite way for some reason. But it just seems
with that thought,
that
though,
if they had a design for Ermac and they rejected it so hard that they're willing to let it be put on the internet, it's almost like them saying that, you can go ahead and do whatever you want with this Ermac drawing because people won't take it as a hint because Ermac's not going to be in our game anyway.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of hope for Ermac as is, because let's say Cyrax doesn't come back. If Cyrax is alive and he doesn't make it into the roster, I don't think Ermac has a chance in hell, because...
But that's going off of what you would think, but just from what we've been exposed to, I mean...
Based off
all these dead characters are coming back, or even like Shang, or characters that you wouldn't have expected to come back, but they are being brought back. For some reason, the characters like Cyrax and Sector and whatnot just aren't a lock this time for some reason.
Here's one for you.
If we go by the recent reveals, then I would say Smoke has a better chance than Ermac, just off what we've seen so far. Because being dead doesn't mean anything, and Smoke has a popularity base which is pretty substantial. So I wouldn't put Ermac in that list without putting Smoke in there too, for sure.
The thing that sort of is curious to me, if you just look at all the little characters Ed has hinted at one way or the other, where it's all like, he'll say some vague, confusing thing about, Cyrax's bus is late. Does that mean he's in the game or not? He hasn't said anything like that about Smoke that would indicate a negative.
Yeah,
and Smoke died, which means his chances are like doubled. So.
Yeah.
Right.
He died, and he's got this whole other Enenra thing, and people really want to see where that goes. And I think that Smoke's chances are reasonable to pretty damned good.
I just don't see it. I think he's going to be DLC.
And there's no character like Smoke, There is a character like
I agree with that.
I
totally
Kenshi,
agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you there, but Cyrax, you have the same argument.
That's
I'm also the only guy in the world who doesn't believe Sonya's going to die and not be on the roster, so...
You are?
I just want to throw out, if we're going to talk about really insane rumors and speculation, my favorite one recently is that the MKX Tournament Arcade Stick Edition will come with a DLC code for Kintaro. That's my favorite batshit insane rumor of the week. That's the one I like. I wonder what that
Kintaro didn't matter when he was in the game.
Kintaro doesn't matter to anyone but us 12 Kintaro fans. Poor son.
Yeah, see, Kintaro was my favorite sub-boss, and then he's in MK9 and he literally does nothing ever. Except burn Cabal, but even Cabal forgot about it.
He's gonna do some stuff in the comic, though. He's gonna have an uprising.
This
will be Kintaro's moment to shine.
Yeah, it won't be an
MKX. He won't be an MKX.
It'll be his internal organs' time to shine, as the sun gleams off his blood.
You're a cruel, cruel, cruel man.
We all know that's where it's going. Show up in the comic, you're a dead man.
We'll see.
Well, what was everyone's answer to the question, though? Because I picked
Next
Havoc.
reveal?
I might say, I would say Jax or Havoc. That's what I'm going down right now. What did everyone think?
I'm saying
I kind
Fujin.
of expect the next reveal to be a new character, just because they haven't shown a new character since the reveal of the game, and I think it'll be Takeda because we already know about him.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Kenshi.
Takeda's a good guess. I want to say maybe Fujin. If not now, if not soon, then soon after. There's a lot of stuff out there that the more I think about it, I put up a list of reasons I think he's coming back on MKO, and I think that Fujin is pretty much a lock for this one. I think
he will be in the game, yes. I don't know. I definitely see him in the game. I definitely see Bo in the game. I think they're the two most logical and highest chances of all that era of characters of getting in. It's really up in the air for the rest of them. I think Havoc would be a distant but not too distant third.
If we came away with Bo Raicho, Kenshi, Fujin, and Havoc, I think I'd be okay with that.
Hey, if we just came, I'd be okay with it.
Okay.
You feeling a little blocked up?
little penis constipated? No.
Broadcasting straight to my nether regions. The true meaning of the word Netherkast.
Oh yeah. Wait, I don't know. I think this is good though, because this is something that we haven't. I mean, if you think about it, I know it's kind of weird and just a random thought, but not really too random, I guess. But dealing with the roster with MK9, we pretty much knew who was going to be in the game. I mean, you had doubts at time for like Shiva and like, oh, is she going to make it in, or is Rain going to make it in? But at the end of the day, you knew you were getting 99% of the characters because it was a safe bet, and then if they didn't make the initial roster from the first 3 games, you knew they were going to be DLC, like in the case of Rain. So now we're back to the main game series where it's not like a trilogy type of affair, to where we're having to debate who's going to be able to make the cut and who's got to be left off. So there's that in itself is fun to speculate on, in my opinion.
Definitely, because we haven't done. You're right. We haven't done it in a while. The only 2 characters who were really contentious in the last game were Shiva and Robot Smoke. That was about it.
The last time
there was a period where people were wondering whether they would bother with Striker this time around.
Yeah, they revealed him kind of early, though. Well, I mean, early by Netherrealm standards. They revealed him in January, I think.
Yeah, that is early by Netherrealm standards.
So yeah, like beyond Injustice, the last time we had to do this was with DC or MK versus DC. So yeah, and even that was a little bit different. So if you go back before
they announced right out of the gate, it'll be like the 10 most iconic. So we were all just arguing who's the most famous character in Mortal Kombat.
So then before that, you have to go all the way back to Deception because Armageddon doesn't count either. So it's kind of crazy to think about. It's been this long since you've really had to make arguments and try and figure out who. Because I mean, could be story elements that we don't even know. Someone like Smoke or Cyrax, or even for all we know, Nightwuff comes back, and it's for a reason that we don't even know right now, just because we don't know all the story elements that are going to take place. So there's always that one person you're like, oh my god, why is this person? I mean, some could say that is Shang, but I mean, there's always going to be that odd pick that you just didn't expect.
Baraka and Kano were the odd picks to me in versus DC.
Yeah,
was I like, these guys count as iconic? And Johnny Cage doesn't? What? But yeah, I don't know. I'd have more fun with the speculation if I wasn't so sure that the characters I want the most are not even in the running.
Right, and yeah, it does suck that a lot of the 3D era characters probably aren't going to be in this, probably not even DLC. I mean, I expect at least a couple of them in DLC as well, just from that fan demand aspect, but beyond that, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, it all comes down to how many spots on the roster are there going to be. If we end up getting like 30 characters in the initial roster, which I'm not expecting, otherwise I feel like I'd get disappointed in the end. If we do get 30, they have a higher chance. But if it's only like 24, then, oh god, there's going to be a lot of people left off. Even of MK9 popularity, etc.
In any case, speculation is absolutely the most fun part of any part of the lead up to any MK game for me. And even if Smoke or someone like Sector that I also really like a whole bunch does not make the cut for inclusion, I always have fun deliberating and pontificating. And you know what? I do love 95% of the cast a whole bunch. So it makes me smile a little bit to see whatever new face, even if they're like number 15 on my list.
I'm right there with you. I love the MK cast for the most part. I mean, there's a couple that I don't really care for, but yeah, even if my favorite doesn't make it, the speculation itself is 95% of the fun of these games. I mean, I get the game and I have a lot of fun, but it's not. I mean, you miss the lead up, and it's been a while. So,
you see, I kind of care more about the story, how they tell it, how good a job they do, whether they, finish what they started in the previous game with certain characters, and that's one of my concerns with, like, if Smoke doesn't make it in, then why did they make him a demon and then kill him and send him to hell? If they weren't gonna, finish that up, if they weren't gonna tell you what happens next, like how him being a demon affects the fact that he's dead and in hell. It's just like, you're just gonna leave that hanging? Like, it's gonna, when you get to MK11, it's gonna be too late. Why did it take him over 25 years of sitting in hell before he came back as a demon?
Because he's a very patient man.
That's an old problem of his. I mean, how long was he in that dungeon underneath Shao Kahn's fortress?
That was a decade.
Still a long ass time for being down in a dungeon under Khan's fortress. That's not a.
To be fair, I mean, that wasn't his
powered
choice.
Down.
When a machine is deactivated, it can't turn itself back on. But it was different when you...
He was having nice dreams of running in fields of gold and flower and daisies.
I hope so. There's actually a picture of that, by the way. I'll link it later.
I imagine Smoke's good dreams are just he's sitting in front of a mirror brushing his hair.
God. All right, what's the next question?
In fact, I want someone to draw fan art of Cyber Smoke with like a little bubble above his head of him dreaming of when he had long, luxurious locks.
I will make this happen.
Because that's what he lost when he became a robot. That's what he's most sad about, that he's bald now. That his hair is those dreadlock cords.
Move on to the next question.
All right, well, we knocked out 2 questions so far. Good job, guys.
1 hour in. Here we go.
All right, this one comes from Chrome. Given Raiden's track record, what do you think the motivation was behind him being as vague as he was when he was talking to Scorpion in regards to the one who walks in darkness, silence, or whatever it was? Do we think this is a writing thing? Do we think it's a character thing? Is he dumb? What do we? You were saying Cyborg.
It's not a character thing. It's not because he's dumb. It's just because it's called for the plot. It's necessary for the plot.
That's the problem, though. Raiden always.
He's not being written as
character that writers have to make dumb for their plots. Like, if he was any kind of good protector, he'd not be vague.
You're right. Raiden should not be. Raiden shouldn't be in that role.
Unless we're supposed to assume that Scorpion knows who the one who walks in silence is, and the reader is the only one out of the loop on the answer to that, but...
One can argue this is a darker Raiden, though, and he's purposely fucking with Scorpion. Is that a possibility?
It's possible.
That's certainly what the demon who attacked Scorpion in the comic wants us to think. And it's certainly how Scorpion takes the news.
Well,
Raiden straight up says he doesn't care about human lives at the end of the comics, so that's why I'm kind of thinking
and he's
Raiden
cutting
is
himself.
Just a dick now.
I don't know. Does he say that?
Totally see
the reason he was so concerned was because the demon was attacking his fighters and he couldn't stop it. So obviously he cares about them at least as tools in his war against evil.
Well, maybe I'm not remembering the line right. Fujin says the cost is too high.
Oh, he says that he doesn't consider it a cost because among humans it's considered noble to give blood.
Yeah,
and that's just
his
excuse for cutting himself with a knife.
Though, but I don't know. That sounds really high and mighty to me. But
I think
there is a positive
being snarky about the fact that he didn't see any danger in cutting himself with the knife.
Fair enough.
Tend to view Raiden these days, I guess, in general, is more cryptic, more likely to speak in riddles himself, much more detached is the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
so that's the way that he talks now.
It's a question of do we like this Raiden or not, though, I think. Like, is this how we want to see him portrayed? Because it doesn't really match the way he has been portrayed in the past.
I don't mind it. But
if you're going to ask me if whether or not post MK9 Raiden is in any way, shape, or form equal to pre MK9 Raiden's portrayal, I will respond to you with a resounding hell no. I think it's not even a question that MK9 Raiden was written really poorly. Absolutely.
I think what bothers me is there are 3 Raidens. There's the Raiden from MK... You know what? There are 5 Raidens. There's the Raiden from MK1, who's sort of aloof and doesn't care about humanity because he hasn't been established as the protector god yet in the lore. And he has the joke ending where he destroys the world. I mean, that's not canon, but that's still, people look at that as one version of Raiden, and they reference it all the time when they compare him to other versions of himself. There's Dark Raiden from Deception and Armageddon. And then there's the Raiden we've had in the games the most, from MK2 to Deadly Alliance, where he's very bland. He's just the boring protector guy who gives the heroes the exposition and sends them off to save the day. And the 4th Raiden would be the one we got in MK9, which is... He starts off sort of like a cross between the old Raiden that we get the most and the MK1 Raiden, where he's sort of aloof and less concerned with human feelings and emotions, I guess you'd say. But he's also, the visions and the desperation of trying to prevent them drive him mad. And he doesn't seem to be still so desperate and crazy. And that a little bit bothers me because I think, when you crack under pressure, that should show the character of... That should show what kind of man you are, and you should always be that way under pressure just for consistency of character. There was nothing more desperate about Raiden's situation in MK9 than any other invasion he's ever fought in, They're all potential Armageddons. He should... If he, starts losing his shit when he's trying to plan a war council, then that says this Raiden is bad at planning war councils. That he always loses his shit when the pressure is on. And I don't want to see a Raiden like that. And then there's the 5th Raiden, who only exists in the cartoon, TV show, and movie. And that's the best Raiden. But we never get that Raiden in the games. And I think that's sort of the problem, that these outside sources have established a Raiden everybody likes, so the Raiden in the games will never really measure up to it.
What the fuck was that?
Sorry.
Not you, that noise. You know damn well I'm talking about, Shadaloo.
I made no noise.
You're playing with those clippers again, aren't you?
No! Shut up! And I will submit for record that I was just fine, happy, and dandy having 2 versions of Raiden, or so I believed, after the MK1 movie came out. We had lovely Christopher Lambert Raiden, and etc. And we had, boring vanilla milk toast Raiden. But at least he wasn't an idiot.
I kind of like this Raiden just for the fact... I mean, I love Lambert Raiden the best too, but I like this Raiden just because you've got to feel like it's leading to something where he really fucks something up beyond redemption and he gets overthrown or goes evil and just goes batshit insane and just starts offing people, kind of like he did at the end of MK9 where he just fried Liu Kang's brains out.
That would happen if there was any kind of payoff to this, where he actually went all the way down the downward spiral and became, a villain or crazy or got killed, something. That would make me happy.
Yeah,
I think that's the entire
feel
reason.
like NetherRealm Studios has at this point established an inability to finish plot threads they start.
Right, and I'm hoping...
Or sometimes not even be aware that they've started a plot thread. Like, to them, maybe there's no reason to pay off this Raiden. Maybe that's not their plan for him. They just wanted him to be that way in MK9, and now he's going to be regular-ass Raiden again in MKX.
I don't know.
Except that nobody will trust him or want to be his friend.
Possible, but
And
at the same...
he'll be treated like a pariah, but he's in the right again, is how I expect they'll write him.
I don't
And
know.
that's-
I believe.
I see
know.
him.
I think
And I
that.
mean, maybe I'm just a pessimist. Maybe I've been
Yes.
trained to expect the worst. I don't know.
I believe that this is the entire reason that we're gonna see Fujin in the game.
Yeah.
If nothing else, they take a lot of fan consideration and input into account, and they mull things over, and they come back, and they have, for the most part, over the years, demonstrated an ability to just take suggestions. And what they're hearing from us, for the most part, allowed dissenting voices. You wrote Raiden terribly, or Raiden's an asshole now, this or that. And at the same time, we've had people who have asked for Fujin for a long, long time, or, I mean, if you want to count Armageddon, that's something. But apart from that, he hasn't had much love since 4. And I think that this is the whole reason that Fujin's going to be in the game. They're going to take parts of that Armageddon bio where he's going to be tasked with taking down Dark Raiden, and it's going to become his successor the way that he was supposed to after MK4.
Yep.
The time of Fujin is now.
That's what I'm expecting. I think this is all leading to Raiden being... I definitely see Raiden... If it's not Quan Chi, I see Raiden being the big bad behind MKX in the final act. The very last thing you have to face, the obstacle you have to overcome, and I don't know. That's the way I see it going, and I see Fujin stepping up. And yeah, that's fully what I'm expecting. That's why I can appreciate this Raiden, is because you're watching it unfold of him just fucking things up, and he's just getting further and further from a caring Raiden to more just cold-hearted, stone-cold Raiden. Not Steve Austin, but just he's stone-cold in his mannerisms, his actions, the way he goes about things. And from, like, even in the comic, I think they're playing that up a lot, and him cutting himself and him just... everyone hates him and doesn't respect him anymore, or just don't take his advice seriously anymore because he just is so damn vague and so unhelpful that, yeah, I totally... I mean, he fucking fried Liu Kang. I totally see this being played up in MKX, and more so in the comic going forward. And, yeah, I think we're leading into that direction.
I hope so. I have this really, again, pessimistic feeling that the end boss is going to be bitter Liu Kang, and it'll be, once again, Liu Kang says that he's trying to avenge all the dumb shit Raiden's did, but the plot will portray it in such a way that Raiden is the one in the right again, like at the end of MK9.
I hope that he's so absolutely out of his mind by the end of MK10 that he speaks in nothing but MK2 torpedo gibberish.
I just see him doing the, like, maniacal, crazy, loony laughter from, like, Evil Dead 2 when he's possessed, when Ash is possessed. And then the little fucking, like, the deer on the wall or whatever that was that just does that ridiculous
God.
laugh. I want to see Raiden just go batshit insane and just completely lose it, and he just starts frying people left and right. He doesn't care anymore. And I don't want to see a rehash of Dark Raiden. I just want to see this Raiden just go purely batshit insane. And yes, I want to see him be the big bad that needs to be overcome, whether they kill him or whatever, because I think it'd be kind of interesting to see him going forward into more games and seeing all the interaction, because there's just a lot of potential there to see Raiden interact with people, and he's just fucking cold as stone to people and just doesn't even give two shits anymore, and everyone's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What happened to you, man? I don't know. I would enjoy that. But anyways.
Kombat 11. The gods hate us all.
But yes, let's take one more question and then we'll do our retrospective.
Okay, we have one from MK Ninja Chick. With Scorpion being acknowledged by Raiden as one of Earth's champions, do we think he replaced Sub-Zero as a member of Raiden's group? How do we feel about that?
Well, Sub-Zero
I'm
was
towards
working for
no.
Raiden in the first issue.
Precisely, but, well, let's say in conjunction then. Do you think Scorpion and Sub-Zero share the same status as one of the Earth Protectors, or one of,
I would say that Raiden didn't tell either that the other was on the home team, because he's an asshole like that.
I don't know that there is a team anymore, so much as Raiden will visit a guy every once in a while and be all like, I need you to do this for me. I need you to do that for me.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean,
The closest thing we may have to a team is whatever John and Sonya are up to, which I don't think Scorpion and Sub-Zero are all that involved in.
I would hope there was some unity in the Netherrealm War, though.
Am I
that all
mistaken?
the warriors were next to each other, kind of. Yeah?
Well, I'm just going to say, am I mistaken in that the first comic left off with Scorpion and Takeda walking to go find Sub-Zero? Were they going to Sub-Zero or were they going to Raiden?
They were going to the Sky Temple to kick Raiden's ass because Scorpion was all like, he didn't tell me the truth about this dagger, and my clan got killed again because of it. It was a solicit for future issues, says Raiden is going to send Scorpion to find Sub-Zero.
Okay. Alright, that's where I think I was getting confused. But yes, I'm in agreement. I don't think he was replaced, but I do think there is going to be some working together between all of them. I think there has to be. I don't think it's just going to be a bunch of lone wolves working towards the same cause, but not interacting with each other at all. I think some of the fun to be had and the most interesting things to see are going to be the character interactions between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, trying to work with each other while dealing with Raiden shit and etc. etc. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I've said before, I've always wanted to see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight on the same side as, allies or partners, teammates, whatever. Just together in some way. The way Liu Kang and Kung Lao fight together, or Kitana and Jade. I'd like to see some sort of camaraderie develop between them as opposed to being enemies all the time.
And I think we're going to get that. I really do.
I hope so. I just think that their normal behavior, especially during a time of peace in between invasions, would be that normally Raiden has regular contact with the Special Forces characters and the Shaolin characters, but the ninjas have always been loners or doing whatever they do off on the side. They don't talk to Johnny and Sonya much.
Yeah.
That always frustrated me about, the other games after MK4 is MK4 established that the rivalry is over between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and they never interact pretty much ever again. That was always
that was just a circumstance of the plot took them in different directions.
They were too busy building up Sub-Zero's character and recycling Scorpion's angriness over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Deadly Alliance, Scorpion was on the revenge hunt again, whereas Sub-Zero never made it to the final battle with the Deadly Alliance because Frost betraying him and needing to be buried because she froze herself solid had to be dealt with. And then in Deception, they seem to have met at the end of Deception because Deception ends with Shujinko rounding up all the heroes and borrowing their powers to kill Onaga with. But we never actually see anything come of it. And then in Armageddon, you've got them sword fighting in the opening for no good reason at all.
Well, Scorpion's all pissed about, if you want to rationalize it, the idea that his clan was supposed to be revived, and instead they all came back as zombies for the Elder Gods, but...
reason other than...
talk about overreacting.
That he and Sub-Zero would be the ones on the front lines who start clashing with each other when the two armies meet.
I feel like Deception could have done it relatively easily. I feel like now that Scorpion is one of the Elder God champions, and Sub-Zero really didn't do shit in that game if you think about it. In Deception, he mainly fought the Tarkatan and he got the armor. And he hung out with Kenshi.
There's so much to Sub-Zero's story that's hinted at, not shown. And that's true of a lot of characters because Shujinko got the story mode and all they got were their bios and endings. And that's one of the reasons I don't like Conquest so much, because it's all about Shujinko, and it's almost the same problem MK4 has, where it's just not enough information about the characters and the plot. It's like we see these 60 years of Shujinko grow from a child to a man and get betrayed by Onaga, but once Onaga has the Kamidogus, it's so vague what happens next.
I feel like with some endings you could connect the dots, though. Like, if you look at Ashra's ending...
together, Shujinko rounded up all these heroes, and Havoc and Cabal were on his side only because they were going to wait until Onaga was dead and steal his heart. And, you see in Shujinko's ending all the heroes he manages to round up. And, Noob Saibot is there for some reason, so...
Really? I know Smoke was there. Was Noob Saibot?
Yeah. If you look, Noob and Smoke are both there, Sub-Zero is there, Scorpion is there, all of, the characters who died and became Onaga's bodyguards were there, so Ermac must have already freed them.
I'm actually going to Google this. I want to see if I can find Noob, because I saw Smoke. I never saw Noob.
Yeah, so you can... I'm pretty sure he's in there. Even if it's just Smoke, I mean... What I'm saying is you can piece together, from the fact that, one of them was there, and Sub-Zero was in the same room. So maybe he hasn't seen Smoke in 10 years, and he's all like, he's not dead. He's with my brother Noob Saibot. I'm going to follow them, and that's how you get to the Armageddon bios that tell us, after Deception, Sub-Zero followed Noob and Smoke into the Netherrealm, and got ambushed, but Serena saved him. So
See,
it's
I
if you
figured...
read this and that, you can sort of tell what happened, but it's such a maze
Yeah.
to, piece it. It's a puzzle when it should be straightforward, when there should have been cutscenes of this stuff. And, you can, Sub-Zero did have a story in Deception where he goes from burying Frost and finding the Cryomancer armor. Then he's trying to find the portal home to, out of Outworld because the Deadly Alliance has been defeated. And he stumbles upon a camp of Tarkatans, and he thinks he's going to die, but he fights them off, and he kills the entire camp himself because his armor turns out to be magic. And then he goes from there to finding Kenshi and healing him. And then he and Kenshi travel together while Onaga sends Hotaru after him for killing that camp of Tarkatans. And then we don't know what happens to Hotaru. Apparently he never runs into them because neither he's dead nor them. And then Sub-Zero and Kenshi must run into Shujinko and end up at Onaga's castle at the end.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I always figured Smoke was there and not Noob because of Ashra's ending. That's what I thought.
If you read everything, you can figure out what happened in the order it happened in. It's just, it takes so much fucking work, and that's why I'm one of the few people who has, put in the work to piece all this crap together, and that's why, I have these answers and other people don't, I guess. Because, I mean, it's there. It's just complicated.
You're so fucking hot.
I'm still laughing from earlier when you said, what the fuck was that?
About these blue balls, man. You're one thing on your mind all night.
I really thought you were fucking with Razor earlier. You said, what the fuck is that? I was like,
yeah.
Okay, Razor, try again. Round 2, go. For real this time.
What the hell was that snake noise? Was that Shadowloo trying to laugh?
It just doesn't come out the way normal people do. Ignore me. It'll pass.
What the fuck?
Canadian thing.
Reptile, man.
He just wants to be noticed. You can't see him, though.
So lonely.
Time is now.
Alright, well that'll do it for the questions this time, just because we gave it very thorough answers, so hopefully people enjoyed those answers. But yes, we'll get to the other questions in the future weeks. Next week we probably only have a chapter in story or in the comic to cover, so we don't know how long that'll take, but we should have some time to answer another one or two.
Well, we had nothing to cover this time. We still only got through 3 questions.
I know.
Or so.
We're right back to the deluge of news.
We kept going off on tangents about, Raiden and the roster, and I don't know.
I think we killed an hour on talking about what character we thought was coming next. That should have been a minute and a half. We didn't even
talk about during that hour until the very end answer the question.
It was good shit. I'm glad we did. They were good tangents,
but
still.
And right now we're eating time with self-criticism.
What are the odds you think we'll have actual news next week?
How do you guys think the first hour of the podcast went? Scale 1 to 10.
So many downvotes.
Yep, here they come. All right. Yep, there's the additional 7 or 8. But all right, let's get into the Kenshi retrospective. Play that intro music. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right.
We should get intro music.
We should for the retrospective. Why not? No, probably not though. I'm just kidding. But Temp, why don't you start us off on Kenshi? Your favorite Kenshi attires, gameplay, overall story thoughts, and favorite fatality, of course.
I like Kenshi. I don't think anyone doesn't like Kenshi. He's an easy character to like. I'm not too keen on seeing him back. I feel like he should logically be in the game. I feel like he belongs in MKX, but I'm not really excited to play as him. I'm not really... I mean, I have a lot of bad memories playing Kenshi in the other game, you know? I know if he came back, a lot of that should be fixed. But the problem was he got a lot of spacing options for free. So much of what he did was low risk, you know? And I mean, there's someone in the local scene who I used to argue with a lot about the Smoke Kenshi matchup. And he said that Smoke blew up Kenshi. And I said, it's 5-5. It's fine. With the reset, it's 5-5. And my rationale for that was Smoke needs to play footsies, and you're never going to play real footsies with Kenshi, ever. And once Kenshi gets Smoke in the corner, which I don't even think is that difficult, Smoke doesn't really have an answer for shoulder charge. You know, if you're at mid-range, what the fuck is Smoke going to do against that? And people are worried about a stray smoke bomb, but the smoke bomb is not like this heat-seeking piece of shit that takes you out instantly. No, it's got a lot of startup, and if you're walking forward, it'll generally whiff because it's locked onto one part. Anyway, Kenshi. Yeah, Kenshi, I'm a big fan. I don't know if I'm excited for Kenshi. I've got my fill. There's so many other characters I'd rather see, but I think one reason why he's so timeless is because out of all the designs in Deadly Alliance, I think his stood out and his worked the best. And people say Mavado's didn't work. Even though I don't think it looks bad, it doesn't really work. Suhao's didn't work.
Plain is the problem.
Yeah, he only has one sleeve. I don't really get... I mean, that was
really
it,
the
right?
only thing about Mavado that stands out is the fact that he has one sleeve.
And it's weird, you know? But you're right. There wasn't a lot of flavor to Mavado. And Suhao was borderline offensive. And I like Lee Mei for the most part. It's kind of weird because from the top, it looks like she's wearing a dress. And from the bottom, she has like these kind of like bell-bottom pants, Chinese-looking attire. It looked a little strange to me. I thought it looked better in the next game.
Pants.
I like Pirate Lee Mei. I like, Dragon King Warrior Lee Mei. I thought those were both really good designs. But Kenshi stood out from the Deadly Alliance roster just by looking really good. Nitara didn't look bad, but it looks random to me. She has like a gypsy thing going, and then almost like a pirate thing going, then a barbarian thing going.
Nitara was deliberately designed to look like a female Vincent Valentine.
See, I mean, now that you mention it, I kind of see where they're coming from, but I would have never figured that shit out by myself. I would have never come to that conclusion.
Vincent Valentine? Really?
Yeah, that's what the artist says anyway.
Then why did they wind up with Gene Simmons on crack?
Well, you're thinking
Which
of
I like. I think that's a good design, but I like Gene Simmons on crack.
The primary, like the little red jacket and the bandana that covers one eye, he was trying to go for a Vincent look, and I think in feminizing it, what he ended up was more of a pirate.
Yeah, and I don't think it looks bad. It just looks random, and I don't think it left an impression with a lot of people. Naitara's design...
you're saying Naitara again.
Oh, shit, thank you.
Just let it go.
Cyborg, I want to point out that you can't say the word wolf. You said Nightwuff before, and it's pissed me off ever since.
Wolf?
Yes,
it all comes
you say
out now, guys.
Nightwulf.
Now.
Nightwulf.
Nightwulf.
What am I saying wrong?
Wolf's in the night.
There's no L.
What?
Can we pluralize it? Can we say Night Wolves?
What do you mean there's no L? There's an L in Nightwulf, you
There's
fuck.
no L when he says it, he means.
Oh,
Nightwulf.
Nightwulf.
Oh, God.
It sounds adorable, to be honest with you, but...
It does sound adorable.
What do you want me to say?
Nightwulf is
Nightwulf? What are you talking about?
Wonderful.
Midwestern
Nightwulf.
people have no accents. How could I possibly be saying this wrong?
I'm just saying, I don't hear any
Did you
L
ever
for Nightwolf.
did
It
you
should
ever
be there.
stop to think that maybe it's you that is saying it wrong?
No, because I'm perfect. What? What? Come at me,
If
bro.
Nightwolf is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Fine. You want me to come at you here? He's gone.
Was that necessary? Was that called for a Cyborg?
It was. I'm kicking him out.
Oh, I didn't know that was still here.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, bud.
I'm.
He didn't even get a word in that time.
Nope. Like a bad penny.
All right, that's enough.
All right, let him back. Let him back. I miss him.
If
Come
you
on.
two can't play nice, I'll have to separate you.
But anyway, now that our good friend Shadaloo has returned on a permanent basis,
We hope.
basically, Kenshi was the only character who didn't have something quirky or random about him. He was a design that really stuck out and that left a long-term impression. Just to cover the rest of the cast, Boraicho, very overweight, obese-looking, did a lot of gross shit. There's really no criticism of Kenshi. He's cool. His gameplay is cool. His concept is cool. So he's not going anywhere. Even if by some miracle, I know it's possible, but if he's not in MKX, don't expect him gone for long. He's a solid character with a solid fan base, and I wish I could be excited for everyone or as everyone else, but I guess I'm just kind of Kenshi'd out. But it'd be nice to see him come back and be completely low tier. I would laugh my fucking ass off. But favorite design, just to be different, I'm gonna say his alt costume from MK Deadly Alliance, because why not? I thought that was cool, kind of like a Ryu thing going with it. I like
I like that it was basically what he looked like before he went blind, or like the day that he was blinded, because it was all tattered and stuff.
It was solid. It looked really good, and we never saw it again.
We mentioned before that Kenshi's backstory is basically the exact same as Ryu's, that he's just this wandering guy who wants to prove how good he can fight.
I think the implication was that he met a certain someone with a red headband and kicked the crap out of him. And stole his clothes.
So the fact that he looks like Ryu is, I think, a neat reference.
And it was well received, unlike Cobra, who kind of resembled Ken, I think Jin to an extent.
The thing is, Cobra wasn't deliberately meant to resemble Ken. He's meant to resemble Johnny Lawrence from Karate Kid, but people saw Ken.
Because his original name during development was Ben, and people saw that name in screenshots everywhere. So the implication, the association was right there from the beginning. Cobra was a doomed character from the very start.
Didn't he have the name Ken Masters at one point, though?
No, it was Ben.
Yeah.
It's called Ben. And when I say he's meant to be Johnny Lawrence, maybe they did intend some of the Ken reference there, too.
Well, it's a long blonde hair, too.
Or maybe they noticed after they designed him, and when they were coming up with the name, they said Ben as a joke. But, it was Johnny Lawrence first, and then it was Ken. That's the overall point.
Yeah, I get the mistake, but...
The point is, they were trying with DA and Deception to go back to the MK1 thing, where every character was based on something from a famous kung fu movie. Boraicho is the drunken master. He's also the old teacher. These two archetypes in one. Kenshi is, the blind swordsman. Zatoichi there's some inspiration there, and I think there's some Daredevil. There's a bit of Neo from the Matrix. It's
I'm surprised we never got anyone from Master of the Flying Guillotine.
I think Shujinko's alt costume, is from Flying Guillotine.
The alt costume, yeah, but just that weapon in specific. Maybe it would have been too obvious. I don't know.
I think maybe it would.
I was hoping one day
it would have been difficult. The thing is, nobody has a really good ranged weapon in those games as a weapon style. Because I think that was something they tried in MK4 with Tanya's boomerang and Fujin's crossbow, and they decided, no, everybody has swords and hammers. Just because it's easier to code, probably. Or more balanced.
Yeah, I would imagine Fujin's crossbow, if there was some sort of incarnation of it in Deadly Alliance, it would have been broken as fuck. But that's okay, though. That whole game was broken anyway.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see as a projectile special move. There's no reason you can't do it like that. Nightwulff has a regular-ass bow. Just do that, but also give him a move that shoots straight and give him a move that banks it off the ceiling ground.
Yeah, I would like to see that bow more often. Well, it's an energy bow. I guess it wouldn't make sense to bust it out. If you could bust it out, you could bust out like an axe instead. That would make more sense. But
Well, I mean in terms of Fujin, because he could aim
yeah.
the bow up and down. But anyway, like you had Kenshi and Bo Raicho filled those roles, and Lee Mei was sort of a stereotypical student character. The other new characters in Deadly Alliance didn't really fit any archetypes, and I think that's one of the reasons that they're weaker. I think Draman is a very strong Mortal Kombat feeling character. He's very Baraka-esque, but with like the gruesomeness of the Netherrealm as opposed to the monstrousness of Outworld. That's plus, he's got that Kabuki mask, and there is a mythological reason why Onis stereotypically fight with iron clubs, so that's why he has a club for a hand. I think there's something clever there, but I guess other people don't see the appeal, they just see meat in a mask.
Well, the club on the hand was the worst part, in my opinion, because even though I like the idea, it looked strange to me. If he'd been holding a club, it would have looked a lot cleaner.
It's a nice reference, but it went over everyone's head. I like
the idea that part of the mutilation is the guy only has one hand. I think
it makes
that adds
sense
to the
for
character.
sure. Yeah, but it doesn't look good. I mean, I like Draman, but I thought it looked kind of strange to me.
I don't know. I think if you were to redo him, I would go more with the mummy alt costume, make him look more like Kon Ra with a mask and a club hand. I don't know. I think Draman is a very redeemable character design.
Oh, for sure. I love Draman.
But just in general, in terms of like trying to revisit the borrow characters from old movies idea, you have Bo Raicho, Kenshi, and Lee Mei, and that's one of the strengths about them. And, Mavado and Su Hao don't look like anything from anything. Mavado doesn't look like anything in general.
No, Mavado bears more than a passing similarity to Trent Reznor with a trench coat. But just with a poorly modeled face, I've always found. So I guess that's why I've always had a bit of a soft spot for him.
I don't know, there's something in theory about Mavado that they were trying to make a Hispanic-looking character.
They didn't. They really didn't. No. At all. He doesn't look remotely Hispanic. His features, no. Not in the least. He looks extremely Caucasian. Very milquetoast.
I thought he looked Hispanic enough. Let me Google this again.
I'm maybe not a great judge as
I'm
a
actually
white guy.
I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how he's going to look in the comic book. That'll be an interesting interpretation of him. I
don't know if they have as much to pull from, because his concept art pretty much looks exactly the same as he already looks in the game. But
still,
I don't know.
Artist depiction and all that.
Anyway, and then in Deception, you've got Chujinko sort of borrows from he's Pai Mei in his primary and the Flying Guillotine character in his alt. Cobra is from Karate Kid. And that's Darius's alt is Jim Kelly from Enter the Dragon. But classic. Beyond that, nobody is really a movie character. And that's all right. I mean, Hotaru is a strong design all on his own, except for having Fujin's head. Havoc is a strong design all on his own. Ashra's... I wouldn't call her a movie character, but there's definitely like a Miko priestess thing going on there that I think is a good idea. But yeah, like Kira, I don't know she's just sort of a generic biker chick. Darius's primary is basically Blade, I guess.
I was getting even some Matrix out of that.
To go with it.
Like a little bit of Morpheus.
I was really getting
Morpheus. Yeah, there's a little Morpheus in there. But like he doesn't have the personality to go with it.
Yeah, no personality at all.
I don't know where were we. I guess I was just comparing characters to Kenshi and like why their designs worked or didn't work and why he's so strong.
Favorite fatality. That's right. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Kenshi, everything he pulls from or everything about him is sort of works as an idea, whereas with the other characters who maybe have a strong mythological or movie background, there's still some flaw. Like Lee Mei is bland girl Liu Kang. There's not enough to her. Bo Raicho had the bad humor, and some people just don't like seeing a fat character for whatever reason.
I feel like that's mostly gone away though with time. He's received a much warmer welcome in recent
I think that's
times.
the more distance we get from his special moves and from seeing him make fart noises in the game, the more we appreciate him because all we're going by is looks and story.
We've had more
So if
successful
they bring
fat
him back,
characters too.
they bring him back and they respect the looks and story and give him a move set that fits them, where he isn't like a sloppy fart joke, then I think Bo Raicho will be a great character. But right now, I'm just saying, like, Kenshi doesn't have flaws, whereas Bo Raicho has flaws.
Still, it's not OMG fat guy every 5 posts on a board like it used to be in 2006.
Yeah.
Those dark days are very much behind us.
But we'll go on, yeah?
No, you can go ahead. I was just gonna
finish off the
Kenshi's
fatality.
costume design, but it'll be my turn eventually, so.
For best fatality, I would say his second fatality in MK9, where he slams against the camera, does a little surprise slice from behind, your eye bulges up. Good shit, although his X-ray is better than every fatality he's ever had, in my opinion. I love that X-ray. Yeah, that wraps up Kenshi.
I'm gonna say, definitely a big hit for me from day one. Favorite costume, without a doubt, is the original MK Deadly Alliance outfit. First costume with the dragon sash and everything. I don't think anything is really, really beaten it. It's simplistic. It's not over designed. I love it. Best fatality for me is the one where like he just lifts them up in MK9 and just flicks the sword further down the stage, then just like sends him into a head first. That's definitely the one for me. I love it a whole bunch. And I guess the thing I like most about Kenshi is thinking about it now, the fact he's always been kind of this outlier character. He's got his allegiances, but he really is ultimately working for himself. But he's got the right intentions, and I like how he manages to be on the periphery of so many characters' storylines and kind of has more of an effect than you really might think on the plot as a whole, but manages to stay on the sidelines. He's the definition of a really, really good B-list character, I find. And I'm also really currently enjoying this current art that's going on with him in the comics where, like, maybe he's moved on past the whole revenge on Shang Tsung deal. That's the only part of a story that I never really figured worked well for me. I mean, so many people have beefs with Shang Tsung, and so many, like, people Shang Tsung to, get rid of or has problems with, like Quan Chi or Liu Kang, and, I felt that Shang was a character that had enough ties to him. So, moving Kenshi onward and past that, I found was a really, really good idea. But, that said, when we were talking about deaths, I've mentioned this before, I think he's probably the last person that anyone would actually expect to die in MKX, and which is why I think that he might not even make the roster. I think that like Takeda might just completely take his place, and it's going to be sad to see him go. But like Tim said, we've had our fair share of Kenshi exposure ever since his debut in Deadly Alliance, and I think that it is time that he maybe took a little bit of a break. So see you next time if that's the case. If he's gone, I'm not going to miss him this time through, but he's had one hell of a run. I look forward to seeing him in whatever future that we do have. You'll never find me complaining much about Kenshi because, like you guys said earlier, he's the one character unquestionably that everyone loves. And I can certainly see why. It's easy. Honestly, he's probably at the number one on my list of characters that desperately need an action figure. I don't know why we got another Kano action figure out of the MK9 line from Jazzwares when we could have had Kenshi. Oh well, I can dream. Next.
Did you pick your favorite fatality?
I did. You weren't listening.
He said the one from 9 where he flings them at the sword and they're cut in half as they slice across the ground.
That's a good one. Why'd you buy that Kano action figure if you didn't want it?
Because I'm a lunatic completist and I have to catch them all.
Oh.
But you can't catch them all if the line doesn't make them all.
all that actually exist, and I'll point out that this is bad. if you thought the fact that I had to actually like take a razor blade and cut open the space between Kano's thumb and his hand to get him to hold the knife was bad, the Nightwulf figure was sufficiently bad enough that he couldn't even hold his hatchets. You put them in his hands and they just drop down all the way up to the hilt of the blade. It's so sad.
That's how you hold a hatchet.
No, I mean, like,
Knife
he
would
has,
know better than you would.
like, there are actual handles on these things, and they're not sculpted to fit into his hands.
That is a shame, actually.
They just go all the way down. All the way down. He can't hold
Nightwulf
them
will
properly.
never have another action figure again.
Probably not.
All right, well, Kenshi for me, he was my favorite character from Deadly Alliance that was introduced. I mean, obviously I like Cyrex, but he's overall actually my favorite 3D era character altogether. And because one, I really liked his design. I just thought it really, really worked. And the idea of a blind swordsman with telekinetic powers is just too much fun to pass up. Telekinetic powers, telekinesis is one of my favorite type of powers that one can have, and I like the idea of somebody who can't even see. I really dig Daredevil as a character when written well. I think I've said this before, but the idea of that combo mixed with a sword and everything just really, really works for me, and it really has me interested. So I really liked his story, I liked his gameplay, and I liked his design. I didn't really care so much for the Deception design as much as I liked his main Deadly Alliance attire, so that would be my favorite, is his main Deadly Alliance attire as well as his MK9 attire, which we got. I'd like to see him move on past that and not back to the Deception attire or his Deadly Alliance alternate or anything like that. I want to see something new from him, but I did really like that attire at the time. And yes, when I think the 3D era, I think Kenshi, because he is one that was actually successful out of the bunch, and maybe that's because he was given another chance in Deception, but even more so than Bo and Lee May, I just thought he was head and shoulders above the rest in terms of concept design and execution, which I didn't think a lot of the characters from that era had. They failed in one of the areas. They failed in either execution, in concept, or their design, or just had a lackluster story and just weren't interesting. Whereas Kenshi, I thought he had everything in spades. I think he could have fit well in the MK1 through 3 era. I think he plays well in 2D, and I look forward to seeing him in MKX if he is in the game and he doesn't die. I really look forward to seeing how he's played out this time and how they're going to separate him from Takeda or Ermac if both of them make it as well. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed the changes they made in MK9 with his gameplay, so I look forward to seeing him in MKX, especially with the quality put into each character this time around. Except for I want to see him have a new story, not have a new story, but have more story development and go further. I'm imagining this whole Takeda Scorpion type and potentially the Outworld Protection Agency, etc., will be played up more going into MKX. So I just look forward to seeing more from Kenshi as a character, as an actual part of the roster this time around and not as DLC. I think Ed has said that he's not going to make people pay for the same DLC twice when speaking of Kenshi or Rain or whoever the hell it was about. I think it was Kenshi. So that's pretty much, he's going to be in the main roster if he is in the game. He's not going to be saved for DLC. So I'm really excited by that. So once again, my favorite outfit for him would be his Deadly Alliance primary. And my favorite fatality, I agree with Shadaloo that I really liked him tossing his sword down, it's sticking into the ground, and then he just pushes, with telekinetically of course, pushes his opponent, and they just go face first right in the sword, getting split just barely, down their head. And it just looked perfect. Great execution. Very simple. Just exactly what I want in a fatality. It made you cringe, and it just was beautifully done. It's all about presentation, and I thought this fatality definitely had it. And that wraps up Kenshi for me.
All right. I've always found Kenshi's the whole Metal Gear Solid armor look interesting, because it does sort of make sense in that, like, he is story-wise usually when he wears that costume a spy working for the Special Forces or OIA. I just there's something like the era he was created, Metal Gear Solid was particularly hot, and yet it doesn't feel dated or referential or derivative. That he continues to wear it, it still somehow fits him. And maybe that's just a matter of color scheme, like just by keeping it, red, black, and silver, and those are his colors, it somehow always fits him. I do. I can't remember. Does the MK9 version have a baboon red ass like the MKDA one does?
I would have to check. I don't think so, but I'd have to double check that.
Then I'm gonna definitely call the MK9 version my favorite of his costumes. Because that always seemed like a really weird choice to me. Like that they'd put him in chaps-shaped armor just so that his ass is bright red and none of the rest of him is.
I'm Googling it right now because I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's a red ass.
Well, the 9 version does still look, I think, slightly cooler in general. I like the glowing light things on his gloves. They made his sword Sento look a little more interesting. They put these glowing jewels in the hilt, and he's got like a little lion or dragon head on the end of it.
I can confirm he does indeed have a baboon ass.
That is a shame.
At this point, I would like to redact my prior opinion that MKDA main Kenshi is the best Kenshi. It's now been successfully ruined for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I actually can't find any pictures of his ass. I'm not seeing anything.
I'm watching gameplay footage, and yes, he does have a baboon ass.
Yeah, I am way too lazy to
I
do
also
that.
like the Deadly Alliance alt, the torn up Ryu costume. I'm not really a fan of his deception look. I can't really identify what's weird about it.
It's busy. It's very busy.
There's something about the puffy padded vest doesn't work for me. I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna say his MK9 outfit is my favorite, although the continuation of the red ass trend is rather unfortunate.
He has a very red crotch as well. It's
Yeah. Well, like I said, the armor is chaps shaped, so that's what you get. But I would like to see something new for this game. I'd like to see something that touches on his samurai swordsman-y background. Jax 007 from the boards once did fan art of him like a couple years ago. I think it was 2010, where he's basically, in a big, those big poofy hakama pants, and they had like rising sun colored stripes on them, like the Japanese flag. That would be interesting to see, I think. Maybe more for an alternate than a primary, but I'd like to see something in that vein.
You junkie.
What does that even mean?
Just hook it to my veins.
All right, you guys have your own private little conversation off to the side there.
It just seems like something a junkie would say. I'd like to see something in that vein as he's looking at his arm.
Well, I don't think junkies have opinions on other people's veins.
All right.
You found the hidden sword of Sento. Congratulations. You are now addicted to smack.
All right. Well, story-wise, it is, I have to agree, unfortunate that it added a lot to the character being accepted as belonging in the MK universe, that he's so tied to Shang Tsung. But it feels like he'll never be the one to nail Shang Tsung. And I realize that's a poor word choice.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We've got
they're gonna say something about that next.
We've got a junkie with a baboon ass with a mad on for Shang Tsung.
And he'll suck all the parts of him.
I can feel those downvotes from the Kenshi fans just coming. This has been the worst retrospective ever.
I have made mistakes. Many mistakes.
Yes, like I was saying earlier, I feel that tying him to Shang Tsung was a bit of a mistake because Shang Tsung is a character with a lot of like rivalry and baggage to him already.
Well, here's the thing. If he wasn't tied to Shang, then he wouldn't fit the universe so well, because the Kenshi we have now really could have attended the first tournament. And that's solely because Shang is his enemy. And that's one of the more interesting things about Kenshi, that you can fit him anywhere in the timeline. You could retcon him into the original trilogy, and it would actually work story-wise. You could make up like a story for you could say he was one of the chosen ones during MK3. He was just never on camera, so to speak, and that's why he's not in the roster of the game. Sort of like Chameleon was there always, but never fought.
I'm never gonna let that one go.
Well, he's in the room right now, watching me, waiting. Get you, Chameleon. I'll get you. No, but yeah. See, I like Kenshi's connection to Shang. I just wish that he could actually play some role in Shang's defeat one of these days, and not just uselessly fail at it. And maybe it is good for him to move on, as he seems to have done in the comic book, but it just feels like a dropped plot thread. I would really like, he doesn't have to be the one to kill Shang, but he could at least be present and help it make it happen. It would be nice if like there was some story where for whatever reason Shang Tsung was, say, running from Liu Kang, and he turns around a corner and there's Kenshi who stops him from escaping and forces him to fight Liu, and that's how Shang dies. That would be fitting enough. I'd like him to participate.
You want him to finish off Shang. But not finish off Shang, but be in the room when it happens. Sex jokes is all I got.
Struggles not to make a dirty comment, but fails.
No, don't struggle.
Are you done?
I'm never done.
I kind of figure that maybe with Shang being dead and all, maybe those souls did go on to some sort of other life. Maybe there was a loophole in the whole, I don't know, Sindel absorbing all of his power and shit. I kind of figure that's the
there's a U in
why.
that word, Shadowloo. There is a U in there.
Oh, God.
Chameleon is watching you criticize me, Cyborg.
It's figure, not figure.
Oh, here we go. It's on. I do not care for the color of your food.
The Netherkast. Lick. No, I don't have that power. One day, though. First Chameleon, then the show. Then the women come.
Then the sugar? Or was the sugar before?
The money, get the power, then the bitches. See what you've done? I'm rambling now.
So, those souls of Shang.
Any other day. So yeah, where was I? I was talking about Kenshi's story, I guess?
Where are the
You didn't
souls
want him
that
to kill Shang, but you want him to be relevant to that.
Moving on.
Yes.
Moving on.
I was about to say, one reason I really hope he is in MKX is just to answer the question of where the hell did his ancestors' souls go when Shang was killed and his power was given to Sindel. And then Sindel died. I mean, usually when a soul stealer dies, all the souls, you see a big swarm of green shit fly out of their corpse. But when Sindel was vaporized, nothing. So I would like to know what's going on with the souls of his ancestors, especially if Shang is coming back for MKX. But maybe that's something the comic could address, and maybe, if Kenshi's not in MKX, and because he would overlap too much with Takeda, I'd be okay with it. Because Kenshi is not a character who needs to be there. Like, he's already established himself as iconic. He was in MK9. He was in the web series. He's not going away. just because he misses a game doesn't mean he's gone forever. Whereas, say, if someone like Lee May doesn't show up in this game or in the next game, it does raise the question, will we ever see them again?
This is sort of her last chance. If she's not at least DLC, I think Lee May is probably gone forever. Because the only demand that is left is from people who played Deception and Deadly Alliance, and those people are getting further and further back in the past. You know, people say that we don't see the Deadly Alliance Deception characters because they didn't leave a mark. I think Shadowloo's right about that. I'm just wondering how the developers came to that conclusion, because those games sold well. Those characters were widely discussed at the time.
It's just sort of become a meme. You know, everyone on the internet says those were the worst games, so that's what everyone believes now.
Pretty much.
You know, if you were just talking about pure gameplay, or if you're talking about, you know, not everyone was a Su Hao, not everyone was a Cobra. There are good characters in those games.
But even with gameplay, every game fails. Like MK4 fails, MK2 fails, MK1 fails. Those were not good games.
The only good games in the series, objectively speaking, are probably Ultimate and 9.
That's it.
It's a whole series of bad games, so you can't be that fucking critical. But all the same, you know, I worry. There are characters who, if they miss a game, it raises the question, will they ever be back? Kenshi will always be back. He's become a part of the series that, you know, he's beloved and iconic, and he's not, you know, he won't be forgotten, whether he's in or not. So I think he can afford to miss out on MKX, especially because he already is in the comic and his son is a character. So if nothing else, I mean, he'll be there in spirit through Takeda. His legacy will be part of the game. But I still would like to see him. I do enjoy playing as him. In terms of favorite fatality, I always kind of liked the one in Deadly Alliance, I guess, where, you know, he uses just pure telekinesis to, like, pop the person's eyeballs out of their head before he, like, crunches them up or whatever he does. And the main reason I liked that, as opposed to, say, the MK9 one, where he smacks people into the screen until their eyeballs peel off on the screen, I think the Deadly Alliance one sort of responded to what character you were fighting against more. Like, because if you do it to Kano, only one eye would come out. If you do it in a mirror match to another Kenshi, no eyeballs would pop out because his blindfold is blocking it. I don't think the MK9 version was quite that sophisticated, actually. I can't remember for sure, but one thing I would like to see is that they actually be the color they are in the character's head.
We can't even get our normal blood-dripping colors right, going, what, all the way back to MK3?
Well, yeah, there was one game there where all the Shokans had green blood, and then never again. That makes perfect sense.
Well, I think they were so excited to have different colors of blood. They're like, we love this green blood. Who else can we use this on? And they thought Shiva. Green
blood kind of makes sense for Shiva. I'm not sure Reptile would have green. I feel like it should be... I think if you kill a real reptile, it comes out red or black.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. But, like, a Shokan is alien enough that if you cut them and they bleed green like a Vulcan, I can believe it.
I think Devora should have green blood, because I could associate green blood with an insect. I can't really do it with, like, a lizard or a half-human, half-dragon.
Like, some sort of maybe amber-colored goo come out.
I think that when
you
I think it should
a
be like
bug, you mostly get yellowish guts.
I'm gonna say like off-white, pearlish, like pus color. That's how Devora should bleed.
Yeah, see, if white stuff comes out of someone when you hit them, I don't think that's gonna work for people.
Doesn't work for me.
Oh, it works for some people, believe you me.
I'm not sure that everyone is as mature enough to handle it.
Time is now.
So we'll put a pin in that thought for another day.
It's bad enough insects come out of her. If I have to see that, oh god.
The weird vagina in her stomach.
If I want like webcam footage of you playing MKX for the first time, I expect a full back of hand to the forehead fainting footage, like motion. Just oh dear me, I have the vapors. Thud.
That can be arranged. I can make something like that happen.
We need to edit together footage. Like you need a face cam, and then we need to zoom in on the absgina.
Absgina.
Oh absgina. Wait, no, vagina.
Take that, Webster's Dictionary.
It's gonna be like the paddle. It's gonna stick. Vagina abs.
I don't want vagina abs to stick. That sounds so awful.
Well, too bad. Ed already made it happen.
Vagina abs.
So yeah, Kenshi. I like him. We keep getting off topic.
I'm sorry, Kenshi fans. I really am. We tried.
We usually don't go so far off topic, I can't remember what the topic was, and this is like the second or third time tonight.
All right, then. Well, that's an episode.
That's all right, because vagina. I'm going to leave you with that. Think about it. Let it haunt you in the night, in your dreams.
That's what's under Kenshi's blindfold. Vagina abs.
No, that's what Kenshi's blindfold is for, so he doesn't have to look at the vagina abs.
Still think
Motherfucker
abgina
can
has
see
more of a
he's
ring
been
to
lying
it.
all along.
Abgina.
Even if he can't see it, he's got to be able to smell that shit. Because my gosh.
I don't think I'll ever be hungry again.
If you have any questions, go ahead and send them in, and we'll hopefully answer
sure
them
after
eventually.
this episode you'll have plenty.
You can leave your down votes right there.
Lots of questions about vagina abs, how they work.
But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation and got at least a few of the questions out of the way. But next week we'll return to the comic book chapter and yeah, have some actual news to talk about once again. And yes, that is an episode. So we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Later.
Have a good week, folks.
Nightwulff.
Nightwuff.
Nightwulff.
Nightwuff.
Nightwulff.
Nightwuff.
Nightwulff.
Yes, that's exactly what I just said. Nightwuff.
Nightwulff.
Whatever, I give up.